Welcome to Pack It Like It's Hot, the official podcast from MJS Packaging, where we dive into real-world packaging insights with the people who know it best, our team, our partners, and other industry pros. Let's get started.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you?
I'm doing well, Greg. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy May. I'm not sure when this podcast will air to the general public, but it is May as we're recording here today. It's a beautiful spring day, and
it is.
We're excited to see some leaves and sunshine.
Yes, definitely.
We're excited, Cindy, to welcome Meghan Wolf from
Yes.
Keystone Cap Company to our show. Meghan has been part of the team at Keystone for 5 years with roles both inside and outside sales, and now serves as their sales and marketing manager. Today, we're going to focus on the differences between domestic and overseas manufacturing. Welcome, Meghan.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys this morning.
And we're excited for you to be here. And I do love hearing about somebody who was in sales and then branched over to marketing as well. As a marketing person, it's like you came to the light, right?
I did, yes.
Came to the light, the side that runs the show.
Not quite.
Well, welcome again.
Yes.
So Meghan, tell us here at a very high level, how do you explain the core differences between domestic and overseas manufacturing?
Absolutely. I always explain it as the core four. And what those four things are is price, lead time, risk, and quality. So pricing, we all know overseas products are 9 times out of 10 just less expensive. That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
The lead time is much faster to go domestic, though. So that's the two main things that kind of compete with each other. Risk, obviously, with the state of geopolitics, ever-changing tariffs, all of that really fun stuff. So we need to take that into consideration too. And then that last one, quality, obviously there could be quality differences. So those are the core four things. And it's just the best way to explain it with those things.
That's I've never heard it put that way. Is that something you've come up with on your own?
Yeah, I don't know how I really came up with it. I was kind of looking at it, and originally, I had those main three, and I didn't have risk involved. But as everything's been changing recently, we really need to think about that one more too. And core four is just fun and rhymes.
You might want to
awesome.
trademark that because I'm pretty sure that Greg's going to start using it. So if you want to collect some royalties on it, I would recommend that. But
it's really strong. Yeah.
You mentioned quality as the last one, and I did want to touch on that for a second. There's always been that perception that the quality does differ and leans more favorably towards domestic. Is that still true? Is that a perception, or is that a reality, or is it just a mixed bag?
A good question. I would say it's not a hard and fast yes or no answer.
Sure.
For most products, it's still pretty accurate. I do know that it seems in recent years overseas has gotten much better at handling plastic products. But where I come from a metal side of things, and that quality difference is still huge. Overseas products use a thinner metal to get specific with metal, and that causes a lot of issues down the line. But if we look at it in general, I think there's still a good difference. Now, I have heard of sub-companies that have quality people on site all the time, and I've heard that works very well. And it really just comes down to what we consider a high-quality product domestically might not be what somebody else overseas considers a high quality product. So when you put people on site there, then you can hold them to your own standards. So I know people that are there all the time. Some people send monthly, quarterly, annually. So if you train and audit the overseas companies to what you consider to be high quality, I've heard can have very good results, but not all the time.
That makes sense.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Definitely.
How about the service when somebody's working with a domestic versus an international partner, and of course I have to imagine the time zones, language barriers, cultural differences play a role in how that all plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if you would have asked somebody this 10 years ago, the role that it played would have been very different. I think today it's a little bit easier than it used to be, and that's just because of all the technology we have now. I mean, we're here now having a quote unquote face to face meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't used to do that, especially in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit better than it used to be. As for a language barrier, I'm in the same position. It's a little bit better than it used to be, but there's still a lot of like little nuances that could be
Mm-hmm.
missed.
Sure.
Just the way we're communicating now, my joke might not land with somebody overseas, or my sarcasm might not come across. So that's a big thing. And like, obviously, you could still be having those Google Translate emails that we both know, like, yes, I can understand it, but I had to stare at it a little bit longer.
Now, what about if someone has a shift in demand or they have a design change? That's not always about timing, right? I mean, it could be just about a different need. Is there one route that's more adaptable than the other, or do you find that both lanes can pivot, so to speak?
I think there's kind of two roads that we need to look at here. If it is about timing, domestic is always going to make it happen faster. In manufacturing, the difference between being able to change an order or even cancel an order could really be down to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like sending that, oh my goodness, I noticed a typo email at whatever time and your manufacturer is asleep,
Mm-hmm.
that could cause issues. So in that sense, it's very hard to pivot when you're overseas, but fairly easy domestically. Now, if you placed an order and your customer completely changed their mind and they want to like scrap the design and restart, but the tooling's already been bought, overseas can adapt easily just because the tooling cost for custom products is so much lower.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I get what you're saying there. What's been your experience, Greg, when you've had different projects that you've done that have been more custom? Have you done more of those domestically or internationally? I guess we haven't really talked about that.
It's been a mix.
Okay.
Everything, though, Meghan is saying is spot on, and it's really interesting to hear a different perspective on it, because these are challenges that I've encountered, others within our organization have encountered, and I love the Core 4. I love that. So kudos to you. I'm going to use that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I told you that's going to be a problem for you,
Yeah,
Meghan.
pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. How about the environment? That's something we hear a lot of, and now even more so with AI and data centers and what have you. I've become a big AI user, and I was lectured yesterday by a young man within our company telling me that I'm ruining the environment. He wasn't quite that blunt, but how about manufacturing close to home versus overseas, or is it more complicated than it just might appear on the surface?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit more complicated than what it appears to be, but I think the perception a lot of people have now is kind of out of sight, out of mind a little bit.
Right.
So like domestically, we know what the environmental regulations are, and we know that they're being followed. And you can go to your supplier, you can go to your manufacturer and physically see that it's being followed.
Mm-hmm.
But overseas, we don't really know what's being followed unless we have people on site. And they may say something's being followed, but unless we're there, how do we know? Just because
Right.
overseas doesn't enforce it like we do domestically. So I would say domestically, the environmental impact is less, just because we know what's being followed. And overseas, typically, products can have up to a 60% higher carbon footprint, and that's just because of the way they're operating. Like in China specifically, they have severe air and water pollution in all those industrial zones. So the regulations play a really big factor into that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And then what about, is there something that when you look at it on paper, looks great, but in reality, you just don't see it coming to fruition, whether that's domestic or overseas, just something that, seems like a great idea, but we don't actually see that happen?
Absolutely. This is a really good question. And I was thinking about this a little bit, and I think the answer might be kind of shocking, but honestly, it's on both sides. And I think it's pricing. Because we have this idea in our heads that, well, overseas is cheaper, overseas is going to be easier, let's save a few dollars and go overseas. But if we look at it and a domestic product's $2 and overseas is $1, you and I are obviously going to choose that $1, but you have that core four to think about still. So you need to think about the quality, you need to think about the lead times, and just on timing, it's possible you could be losing customers going overseas, especially if you have a customer that comes in and they wipe out all of your inventory and you're only relying on an overseas manufacturer. You could be in a world of hurt having no inventory on a specific item, and it just could cause so many issues, or like any rework problems, honestly, that could take forever too.
Right. Yeah, no, you've brought up some great points, really, really great points. I appreciate that. I think there's some good insights for our audience here. Now, I'm going to veer off for a minute and say, if there was any overseas destination that you needed to go check out a plant, where would that be? What's your dream? What's on your bucket list? Is someplace you'd love to go check out a plant?
I would love to check out a plant in Italy. That is top of the bucket list for sure.
Okay. That's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
Not bad.
So from Lancaster, PA to Italy. There you go.
Yeah. I'm ready for it. I'm going to use that royalty money from Greg on the Core 4, and we're going to go to Italy.
Love it.
And I'm sure we can find some plant there for you to check out, and you can write off part of it.
Exactly, yeah.
That's great.
Well, Meghan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a delight.
We really appreciate you sharing your insights, for you gracing us with your Core 4, and just really for just sharing so much with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our MJS podcast. Make sure to follow and listen on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Tune in next month when we will be joined by another packaging expert. And remember, packaging solutions are just a click away at mjspackaging.com.